whoa! The game actually loaded.
Yeah,
I
with no one
never
dropping.
saw
Huh.
this. How did that happen with nobody dropping? That's for
Huh.
me the most impressive part of what just happened. Because with a
Well,
10-minute load screen, usually somebody's lagged out of the game. But all right,
magic.
let's just hop into it. We'll ride this baby out. It's going to be a best of 5 here for the IEM Katowice main event. And I would like to just once again openly say that I've asked in IEM chat several times and still got no replies. So if anyone is dissatisfied with our current overlay, I have no other assets for it. So, folks from IEM, if you're tuning in and want to send me anything to use, that'd be cool. Spawning in the bottom left side of Dusk Towers for this fresh best of 5, it is going to be none other than Euronics Gaming's FireCake.
The top right as the red Zerg, he's my insanity's Serral.
Cake's alright. From what I can tell from chat, baguettes are better though. Actually, if we're gonna be honest, and I know we've been debating about like the non-douchebaggy versus proper way to say it, I love croissants. Like
Croissant.
you put them in the microwave for like 8 seconds, you get them a little bit warm. They're like, oh, just so good.
You know, I've never been that much of a fan of croissants.
Croissants.
We say it in Virginia, croissants. Just kidding. But I went to a French restaurant in New York and Brooklyn when I was up there because there's like a restaurant row, kind of like a hipster area.
Sure.
And there was oh my God, what was it called? It was like there's like two versions. There's Monsieur and Madame, and it's something afterwards. I can't remember what it was, but it was basically just like toast and delicious cheese and like ham or not, depending on what version you got. And man, I wanted to go back to a French
Oh, a
restaurant
croque
ever
monsieur.
since.
I know what you're talking
Thank
about.
you. Yes, exactly.
That took me a moment to register. I've had those before. Those are great.
Yeah, you can actually get them at the Korean bakeries, oddly enough, like pre-packaged. But yeah, and like that fresh one was like super good. French food is good.
Yeah. Okay, so the food talk aside, we actually have a pretty interesting ZvZ ahead of us. Now, before everyone's like, Rifkin's just saying this because he's a caster, it's a caster thing to say. I want to say, no, like, shut up. We've actually had really great ZvZs recently that have involved like Ultra versus Ultra, Muta timings, Ravagers just on mass. Like, it's really cool the way this has gone. And FireCake is certainly someone we know can take this to the late game in several different instances versus Snoot, versus Raynor, Penguin, like you name it. Like we've seen him play very good ZvZ.
Yeah.
Serral, on the other hand, is the question mark for me because we have actually seldom seen much Serral, and what we have seen out of Serral has been not great examples of his PvZ, for example. I know he's a really good player, and talking to Penguin, team captain, regularly hear about just how good he is. So I'm hoping we get to see a good example of that here. And I want this to be like the 3-2 series.
So we already have Serral going up to a Roach Warren, which is pretty quick, but he also gets a third base, so he's not going to do anything with it quite yet. Now, we have seen Serral be a little cheesy, all linny in the past, and wondered if he was going to do something here. Might be holding off for just a few minutes, or actually might just be using it for defensive purposes. FireCake got away with like a really quick third hatch,
Oh, that's
and was
clever.
mostly depending on a spine crawler to help out.
The whole position on the leagues is kind of cute there in the mineral lines, but it's funny thinking about the spine crawler because we have seen him have to deal with a considerable amount of early lings and banes. Obviously, that's not happening in this game, but the spine crawler will still be beneficial when the roaches come into play. Just a question of like whether he'll have the proper units around it. It's a pretty expensive investment early on, but as we can see from the worker count, with his third base being up so much sooner, this doesn't actually hurt him that much. It is just simply the question of like the follow-up.
Well, we have a lair started for Serral. FireCake just finishing his Roach Warren now, and he's gonna start his lair in his Evolution Chamber too. So without Evolution Chamber for Serral, I am kind of feeling the mutas. It's Dusk Towers. Usually one person tries to go for mutas either right off the bat or after getting a couple of roaches earlier on. It's a very passive game. So I think like kind of, banking on your opponent not attacking you where you can get to the Spire might be a good bet to make. But there's the Evolution Chamber. And there's not much really to talk about otherwise. Just droning.
Well, actually, there is a little bit, though, to talk about. And that's trying to guesswork which direction these two go. If it does end up being Roaches versus Ravagers and whatnot, we've actually seen this weird dynamic where, okay, well, it's going to be Spire for Serral. But just to finish that thought, we've seen this weird dynamic where some players, like Vortex and others, have shown us some really cool moves where you don't go Ravagers at all. You just go for a lot of Roaches. And because of that, you're usually up like 30 supply for some of those attacks. Now, funny enough, it was FireCake who started playing this game defensive, but if he wants to not deal with these mutas, he's going to have to go offensive. And the worst part is he hasn't gotten much scouting done. Nothing he had seen leading up to this point hinted that it was going to be mutas, and with no overlords in position to scout that, he's not going to have a great idea. 4 Ravagers are what you need to one-shot an overlord, so going around and cleaning up some of what's on the map, I really don't know that FireCake's going to realize what's happening.
I don't think so. And that is Serral just like, yeah, like I said, taking that bet that he's, it's been so passive. FireCake really hasn't been setting up for an attack. He's actually been quite trying to be a lot greedier than his opponent. That that time where you might die before you can get to mutas is almost already over, actually, and is not going to kill him in this game. So if you can get to mutas without any problem, they do usually win. But this is, of course, the Roach version, so still getting that +1 missile is not going to go full on in the mutas and snowball. Just probably going to be a mild annoyance, something that FireCake's going to have to defend against, stay at home. If he pushes out, that's a lot of free damage. That's a lot of counterattack opportunities. And the game will go on, but FireCake is having to play into Serral's play now.
Well, if he is going to try and match the mutas after the fact, that's going to be tough. But FireCake is banking a considerable amount of money, so might be possible, question mark? Unlikely. I guess the upside being that he's got a 4th down much earlier than his opponent might give him that little bit of extra mining that he needs, but the Roaches have to buy time. Dying out in the middle of the map's not the answer. Retreating back home is not the answer. He was trying to split them up so they wouldn't all get caught, but that's still not going to work.
Interesting for Serral to continue to invest in the mutas with +1 Carapace, especially as opposed to +1 flyer attack. I wondered if maybe he saw the Spire from FireCake, but he did not. And I mean, it rarely goes into mutas' Muta Wars this late, especially with Serral now going for so many Roaches. But I guess ZvZ has been a lot more interesting than its Heart of the Swarm counterpart, which was pretty figured out.
This is actually really well defended. Oh no, don't let 3 Roaches. There you go. Really well defended. I mean, FireCake's supply is just non-existent. He is going for 18 mutas, and like I said, he had money banked up, and he's going to have more mutas than Serral, so this could get turned around on Serral, because there's Spore Crawlers down, he's not going to get further harass, and he's going to be, funny enough, in the same position FireCake just was, where he's going to have a lot of units on the ground that are going to be ultimately useless, so if he pushes now and hits hard, maybe he gets a bit of damage done, but the mutas will eventually clean up all these Roaches and Ravagers, and with Serral having such a low Mutalisk count, small upgrade lead won't matter for a lick of difference.
Yeah, and that's why I really wonder about getting the +1 Carapace, but he is going to go into more mutas as he sees FireCake's mutas come out, and it's a very interesting way to get to Mutas' muta, but it's happening.
You say
Serral's,
interesting, I say awkward.
Yeah, well, Serral's already at a disadvantage, so he's not going to start this off great. Maybe hoping that Corsair Bio Shots can help out here.
God, nope.
No, he's just going to attack and hope to bring the mutas back. Probably the better choice.
Yeah. Queen's will get some pretty good damage in there, too, worth noting. But as we can see, it's still a tough fight either way. Mutalisk count's looking a little bit better for Serral, but I don't know if it's good enough to take this on. In fact, that number's dwindling fast, and 7 Queens underneath this, while they're getting good damage done, will not stop the mutas outright.
Yeah. I mean, Serral trying to play back into the Muta War after using so much gas on his ground is so odd. He goes for the +2 Carapace, which we've had the pros, specifically TLO and a couple of other, mathematicians in chat, confirm that +2 is actually not better. It is 1-1 and then 2.
But it
Carapace
was like
first and then
it was
3.
like decimal points of difference, though.
It was, well, I mean, was it? Because I just saw a TLO saying that it was basically useless and it was a very odd decision. He was actually bewildered that someone did not know to go for 1-1. So I don't know.
Either way, this is not snowballing for FireCake yet, but it's not going well for Serral in the defense. Like, there's no Hydra Den coming down next. There's not additional Queens being produced. He's relying on what he has. What he has keeps slowly bleeding out to that of FireCake. A lot of these moves are really low for FireCake, but haven't quite got the killing blow. Putting down a creep tumor means less transfuse options. I mean, this just gets harder and harder to defend with each engagement. God, a lot of these mutas are so low. Like, he's so close to just picking off like 5 or so, but just can't quite get those last hits.
Yeah, and if FireCake ever disengage, you'll be able to heal up pretty quickly, but taking the fight here, taking the chance.
Oh
He
my
has that
God.
+1 flyer attack, but not the carapace.
Yeah, she bleeds out quite. I gotta give it to, like, Serral's making a great situation out of a terrible situation. The Mutalisk count is still very different in actual numbers on the field, but the amount dead is actually almost equivalent.
Ooh. I mean, the roaches somehow snuck around. Speedlings sneaking around for FireCake makes a lot more sense than roaches trying to go around, but they kind of worked. They don't get very far, however, and are going to be cleaned up. Now, Serral, that isn't exactly something he wanted to give away like that, because even though it is going to Muta versus Muta, this is basically his Lings, you know? There's something on the ground that can counterattack and bring the Mutas home, and now it's all dead. And he doesn't really have a lot of bank to make the Lings now. He's gonna have like 10 that can maybe fly around.
Funny enough, the Spore Crawlers haven't been that big of a factor with helping any of these fights. It has been the insane amount of queens being produced behind this. I think the point to make, though, is FireCake keeps insisting on attacking this base.
Yeah.
The queens, even on creep, though, are still hard to shuffle around. And I feel like going around where the queens aren't would be a much better way to utilize these mutas. But regardless, Serral, once again, has several transfuses, and it's going to be hard for FireCake to actually... Ooh, let's catch the start with a name move. It's going to be hard to get caught off guard. But the Lings start coming underneath this. He's got to use the mutas to defend against those, as the roaches are gone. Hatchery's just going to get dived upon. There's a lot of transfuses, though. Oh, my God.
Now,
but he's
Serral
still...
he's still not quite half down the supply of mutas.
No, it's bad, though.
Queens are helping out.
No, they're going to stop helping at a point. Like, he takes an engagement without the queens was a devastating mistake. Because those 34 mutants, like 34 versus 17 is a lot different than 20 versus 10. This is getting really out of hand, and the Glavorn bounce damage is going to keep being better and better and better. And every single time, Serral's not going to be able to respond because he's got these Ling run bys on each side that he has to worry about.
The supply really is selling a FireCake is in the lead here, which is it's a very odd game, but it is what it is, and Serral is going to have to continue to turtle on 4 bases to try and recover this game. FireCake, of course, going up to 5 bases, is having the much better reinforcements of both Lings and Mutalisk. Serral just, I mean, I don't know, like, every single time he takes an engagement, you know, just for the queen to arrive, or even with the queens, it's always going to go, you know, bad for him, even with those upgrades that he used to have for the lead.
Look at the transfuses going to that one muta, by the way. Oh my God, that thing just lived like 7 times over. That was a cat. It had 9 lives. But that being said, 42 mutas versus 11, and the queens aren't even going to hold up to this. GG gets called. FireCake going to take the first game here in this best of 5.
What a funny game.